Hello. Well, seeing as this is going to be my last reflections video in this current direction, and having spent now 8 years, here's uploading videos here, just over 10, and being a member of the site, I gotta say, it's been quite an interesting journey. Even though I have not been able to do everything I've been wanting to, some of the stuff I had in mind will be a retooled for the coming decade and year, as well as some others being temporarily shelved in preparation of this. As I definitely will let you know one thing on the way. Hey, the COVID situation, even with what's been revealed about it, is probably not going to change anything because I was never outright targeting younger users. Whereas I always try to target at least 13 and up. You had which age you had to be a member of the site for real. Hail and but thankfully I did not get caught up in the sweep, and so far most of my stuff seems to be compliant with the changes, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, like anything else, you can call me skeptical, but it hasn't been all bad, I'd say. I mean, I'm not gonna be doing like a conventional end of the year or decade video like some others, but it's like I said before, the rewind was logistically not workable anymore a year ago, and it's even more so unworkable now. Because even though they tried to change, they acknowledged the heat they got, it still ended up turning to be pretty bad. And given how much or varied the site's content has grown, and my usage alone, own doing a video that encapsulates everything it has to offer is not logistically possible anymore. Especially given how a lot of my tastes have changed over time, and even though I don't follow everyone seems used to, who, I've noticed that they've changed a bit too, so it seems like the right time for me to just retire this current direction after my final review, which will be uploaded before the clock strikes midnight, ready to go tomorrow on New Year's Eve. I've also this is my most recent set reviews. I've done this to various light conditions, place I lived, and body types. Why, much like Sean, Smeg Moore, her Simic X-Men point, I've gotten on blip, gotten off blip, and seen blip self-destruct. So I've seen quite a bit in my time here. I've also ultimately decided that even bearing the changes in mind between YouTube and the FTC, that my content will probably not be changing too much, but the way I'm approaching it will. I'm still going to be talking about all similar subject matter, but not in the same way. Hey, I'll definitely be, giving things a different perspective than I used to, with how I approach unscripted content as well as scripted stuff. And regards to the latter, there's not going to be as much of it as there has been in the past 6 years, but the stuff I do end up having will probably be a more detailed, potentially longer, depending on how much I want to get into a certain subject matter. Which is why I've shelved some of these other videos until I can determine how I want to do that. And others, I was already planning on approaching it that way before this happened, and this will just give me like another motivator since it did kind of throw a monkey wrench into my plans for total retirement, though, which is something I'm interested in. It'll be interesting to see how that is dealt with, whether or not they're going to keep going the plan, or they're not going to be walking it back, depending on how many responses I got. I'm definitely also going to keep up my video on the situation. That's why I deliberately waited until I had enough time to probably assess it. So there's that. Be it as it may, hey, come 2020, it's going to be a lot of changes ahead. And before I go, I point out if I'm playing games, my information for both my PSN as well as my Nintendo accounts on my channel description if you don't want to find me. Hey, so I'm gonna be briefly addressing my favorite films of the year with honorable mentions. I'm gonna get those out of the way, being It Chapter 2, Captain Marvel, and Shazam in no particular order. So here we go. Okay, number 10, Spider-Man Far From Home. Much like the previous installment in 2017, this was a fun sequel to help ease out of Phase 3 of Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I definitely like how they're picking Peter to be our guide through the changes from Phase 4 onward, with the third movie. He's going to start filming next year, hopefully, even given this current situation between Sony and Marvel. They're able to work something out with his help. I think this could be like a mutually beneficial arrangement. I mean, I'm not saying who's going to come out on top just yet, but we'll see. Number 9, Toy Story 4. I always was wondering how they're going to pull this off, but leave it to Pixar to once again and surpass my expectations and deliver another strong sequel in this franchise. And I think what sold me was definitely like a lot of supporting cast with Ducky and Bonnie, which were Key and Peele, especially Keanu Reeves as the Canadian and Evel Knievel take off Duke Kaboom. I definitely have more to mention about him later, but for now, I like how it works in different ways, and ending on the third movie did. Like, it's like goodbye for now, but not forever. Number 8. How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. I have not seen The Homecoming, but this film is a great finale to what's, in my honest opinion, DreamWorks' best trilogy, taking it out to the humorous book series and turning it into actually a really compelling trilogy of fantasy animated works, which, whatever happens with the series in the future, not counting Christmas special, which I have not seen, I do not plan to, I really hope that its impact can still be felt over time. Number 7, Pokemon Detective Pikachu. It took 26 years for them to make a good live-action movie about a video game anime series, and I'm glad this was it. Given how the film also did quite well at the box office, as well as being in the first live-action video game film to receive relatively positive critical reviews, as well as audience reviews, it was just definitely garnered a lot more talk about planned follow-ups and spin-offs. Whether they adapt existing stories or write new material, I definitely welcome the idea. Yeah. Number 6, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. And while many have often debated whether or not there was any long-term plan for the saga, I definitely can vouch that watching these movies back to back proves that a lot of the details actually were set up fairly early on, especially given how I'd be willing to watch this again to verify this further. I mean, if you don't feel the same way, it's nothing personal, And I personally still feel that the Skywalker song has actually delivered another great chapter, and definitely am open to seeing where the saga goes from here, whether it's in theaters or on Disney Plus. I am very much open to the prospect. Number 5, Doctor Sleep. My obligatory spot to round to the top 5 for an overlooked movie, which, despite being critically acclaimed, and especially as someone like me who really enjoyed the movie, the film did not really perform as expected, and this is definitely my usual time for me to say what I usually say whenever a film I enjoy does not do as well as expected. And if you have seen the movie, great. If you haven't, please give it a watch as soon as you can. I think you'll definitely enjoy it, whether or not you've read the book. It's definitely adapts both the book as well as the original Kubrick film quite well. So I hope you can give it a chance whenever you can. Number 4, Avengers Endgame. As the 4th and final, Avengers film so far, this was a finale that had been more than a decade in the making, and that's revisits not only many key scenes from the previous entries in the series, but also wraps up in a spectacular, epic finale, which is like Marvel's Return of the King, full of humor, action, and emotional depth. This is definitely another uh, high bar in superhero filmmaking, and I really hope to see whatever Marvel does from Phase 4 onward is as good as this, given how we're now 5 years into their 14-year plan, and they have lots more coming from that, so keep an eye out for it. Number 3, Joker. Her. While a lot of people did not know what to make about this movie when it was first announced, even putting aside the procedural subtext, there was a lot of wondering about whether or not they would take to the Elseworlds concept on film on the way people do in a comic book, being separate from the main D6 in the universe. Well, I'm glad to say that given relatively positive critical reception and audience reception, that's another film where we can actually pinpoint among the many moments that shows how DC has changed over time on movies, where at its heart is Phoenix's very compelling performance as a accomplice of crime, which easily joins us for favorite portrayals of character, and it's broken the record for being the biggest R-rated film ever, making $1 billion worldwide, on a modest $55 million budget for a kind of movie these days, taking cues from Scorsese as well as its lore to craft a unique adaptation of its own. Sometimes you might think your life is a tragedy, but in others, it's like a comedy. And it's brutal, it's believable, and in any way, it's actually rather beautiful. I mean, not bad for a director who's normally associated with bawdy comedies, but I digress. Number 2, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. This would have been my number 1 spot, and if you see my number 1, you'll know why I chose that. But this film is still easily the best installment in the series yet. It's another example of how Keanu Reeves managed to redeem himself in this current time frame. While the first 2 films are great action films on their own, this one still shows how it's got some life left in it. They actually agreed they'd want to keep making these movies unless audiences keep going to see them, and given how they actually, by the time I was getting back to do my look at the movie or some place I'm waiting for part-time, they already greenlit Chapter 4 for 2021, the same time as a 4th Matrix film, which I gotta say, I'm very pleased at the notion. As long as both Reeves as well as director Chad Stahelski can keep giving us more of some of the best action scenes I've seen in recent years, I will definitely keep turning out. And number 1 is Knives Out. Yes, it definitely has been quite a roaring decade of filmmaking, especially with Johnson also contributing his own unique vision into a genre that has been not seen as much over time, but leave it to him to portray, give his own unique spin on it with a modern murder mystery that pays homage to the works of before, even shooting on film to deliberately capture the old look and feel, with a talented cast, all taking part after an author is found dead, with many of his family arguing over his $60 million fortune, and with everyone being potential suspects. Both in terms of visuals and story, the way he uses his format is wonderful, and if you pay attention, you're definitely rewarded. And I'm already working on building my entertainment calendar for 2020, so this year had a lot of successful movies and games towards it. Hopefully next year will be every bit as impressive. As for other stuff, I definitely will be reworking a lot of it, like the Pixar Marathon especially can be used for part of my journey into Disney Plus's whole of content. So you'll probably be seeing those. I was wanting to do it this year, but I've been wanting to do it for a while before everything went south. But the other stuff I am confident about, I would definitely would like to have it done and recording this finally I ever want to do in this direction by stroke of midnight tomorrow. So that's all for now. Later.